Excited for the intro.
Oh, we're here.
I
Hey
love the
guys,
intros.
stand by for a quick intro. Welcome back to another episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas Canby, and this is episode 75 with Joey Schofield. Joey is the director, producer, and editor on all the content on Official Strongman and also Giants Live. In the day and age where social media is king, it's great to have someone like Joey in the community to help make viral posts to spread the good word of Strongman out there to all the boys and girls. When Joey's not filming, he's also an aspiring strongman athlete in the 90 kilo division, getting stronger every day and using all the tidbits that he learns from interviewing the top strongman to his advantage in his own training. So let's sit down with Joey to talk all things strongman on today's episode of the Strongman Winner Circle podcast with Joey Schofield, the man behind the camera. What does he have to say? We will find out very soon. If you're enjoying all the episodes, consider being a member and supporting the show. If you join the channel, I have member-exclusive videos that you can use to your own advantage to become that stronger and best version of yourself. And with no further ado, here is Joey Joe. Hello, Joey. Welcome
I
to
loved
the
every
show.
second of that. That was brilliant.
Thank you. Welcome, guys. We are live on YouTube and live on Twitch for the first time. So
Woo.
we could get some Twitch people coming in here. I don't know how much of the strongman community involves themselves in Twitch, but we will find out. But Joey, how are you feeling after Vegas, baby?
Good. I had 12 hours sleep last night. So I'm all caught up now, I hope. Vegas was an absolute blast. It was amazing.
Was that your first time?
In Vegas, no, I went on holiday a few years ago.
All right. But what was your favorite part of Vegas outside of the show?
Okay. I was going to say Trey's 470 deadlift. Outside of the show I went to the Sphere. That was really cool. And just a bit of hot weather. Escaping England in the winter, you can't beat that, really.
Yeah, I bet. Did you have a favorite steakhouse or restaurant or evening out with the gents and ladies?
No, me, Shane, and Shannon went somewhere. Pretty pricey. I had a bit of bone marrow. That was interesting. A nice Wagyu beef burger. That was very good. But to be honest, I hit up the one in the hotel just about every day. Had a nice steak and chips there one night too.
Oh, excellent. Hopefully,
put on about 4 kilos while I was there.
Good.
All water.
Only 2 kilos off from Hixie when he went out and gained some weight. But yeah, talking about the show, so that was pretty exciting show. I thought of course, there was a great production. I thought the lighting was a little dark, but it kind of made like a cool ambiance in terms of like kind of when I look back on the videos. But what did you think about the show? Were the guys pretty nervous in the backstage prior to the show starting?
To touch on the lights, I'll be honest with you. This is one of my favorite lit shows for quite a while, and I thought it was anything but dark. For all my camera nerds out there, I was shooting on f5.6 to f6, which is like the aperture was smaller to let less light in, because usually at Giants at home it's much darker, and all my footage is a bit grainy. But my footage here was nice and well lit, and it was a nice white light as well, which just gives everything a good color. Rather than like it being really dark, because sometimes you have a blue or a green or a red on the crowd at home, and it looks cool like to be there, but on camera, for my camera, it's not amazing in low light, and it was just a bit dark. Was anyone nervous backstage? Not that I didn't really spend a lot of time backstage, not before the show anyway. I'm usually busy working hard. So
how about the interviews prior? Were there some nerves when you were kind of gathering content for the boys and Lucy?
Lucy's usually the most nervous person to interview, just because she's a bit camera shy. But nervous around the lift, no, she had it in her back pocket all day. I think Trey is a bit more. I don't know if nervous is the word, but he's not as confident on camera compared to somebody like a Hooper, who is just such a good talker.
Yeah, he seems like he's one of the prime examples of he doesn't even on his own YouTube. I don't know. I wish I could keep up in terms of how he makes content, but he's just able to be very comfortable in front of the camera and be articulate and probably very time effective at the same time, because that's half the battle too, is being efficient with what you record and what you produce.
Pretty much, in my experience of filming my own content of myself, which is very slim so far, but it's a lot of doing the same line over and over again when I've messed something up. The only other person I know that is like Hooper is Shane, and Shane can just talk for half an hour without taking a breath.
Oh yeah, I experienced one of his seminars. He did a great job.
How was that?
Oh yeah, it was a great time. Maya went to her third seminar, so she did good, but she was a little scared of the dumbbells crashing kind of throughout. But you were talking about the show, so yeah, I would say Trey. It was just crazy, just because Trey, in over 4 weeks since the Shaw Classic, put 60 kilos on his deadlift, because he hit like 410 kilos, and then he finished with 470 kilos, all raw, no suit. So I think that was pretty exciting, not only to get the American record, but the biggest raw pull ever. So that was quite the I would say quite the look.
He told me in my interview before, and I was watching it again earlier. He said he would have been really happy to hit 1,000 pounds. So even for him, I think 470 wasn't even in his mind. The same with Hooper going for 505. That wasn't even. He was like, on a good day, I think I'll hit 470, and then obviously he smokes 470 and has a crack at the 505. So everyone just blew it out the water.
Absolutely. I think Mitch was the closest to 505 in terms of getting to his knees. So he put it out there that he's going for the record. So
seen that.
So
my take on this is it's just Mitch, but everybody that's not Eddie and Thor that's attempted the 505 or 500 kilos plus so far, everyone that's got it far has got it to the knee, but I don't think anyone's got it over the kneecap yet. No one's been in with like a hitcher's chance of pulling it. Whereas I've always like Ivan every year can get it to his knee just about. And how much of that really is the suit, you know? That's what I think. Like if you take the suit off, is it getting off the ground? But the suit gets you off the ground, so you can get it to the knee. You could probably get 520 to the knee in a suit potentially. That's a random number, but you know what I mean.
But the one constant for the 500 kilo club is that you have to be a World's Strongest Man winner. So both Thor and Eddie, World's Strongest Man winners. So maybe it takes a World's Strongest Man winner to be in that 500 kilo club. We don't know. But we'll find out. In your thoughts, actually, before I want to stay on Hooper for a second, because he's such a fun topic. So I've been on this podcast talking about why I think Hooper is as good as he is. What's your take on why you think Hooper is as good as he is? Maybe like the alien that Colin Bryce describes him as. Why do you think he's as good as he is since he started in 2022?
Honestly, it baffles me a little bit. He's too good. He's good at everything. He told me in my pre-Birmingham Log Champs interviews the other week that everybody that competes at Giants Live or World's Strongest Man has versions of themselves. Like they've got the good day version of themselves and they've got the bad day version of themselves. But Hooper's only got one version of himself, and he turns up and you know what you're going to get. You're not going to get a Hooper that turns up and comes in 7th or 8th place because his head falls off and he does bad in a couple of events. He's just super consistent. Hence why he's had 20 consecutive podium finishes, only because one, his first World's Strongest Man, his first international show, he didn't podium. How is he so good? I don't know. Genetic freak, I'd say. He's just come on leaps and bounds. Like even when he first started it, he was pretty good, and now he's very good.
But there's some things with like the learning curve, like a dumbbell or a log, or even some of the other kind of particular events that got stuff that would take 4 or 5 years for a normal competitor to develop. He's developed in less, maybe 18 months or so. So it's quite remarkable the pace he's going at. But I've said that he's just really good at leveraging information. He's very bright. Colin Bryce, when I had him on the first time, I asked him for superlatives, who he thinks is the most intelligent strongman he ever came across. He said it was Mitch Hooper, and then he became my next guest because I'm like, I should leverage that with going to have Mitch. And I had Mitch on before he won anything. It was only after he took 8th place at Worlds and he took 3rd at a Giants Live show. So it was that's a good one. If you guys want to go back in the archives, it's somewhere in in, I think that's episode 29, maybe. But overall, do you think there's a good probability that Giants Live will return back to Vegas?
Vegas, I don't know how much percentage I'd put in it. I'd say probably. But America, there'll definitely be another one in America, without a doubt. But Vegas, I'm not so sure. I would like to go back to Vegas, but we could go somewhere else.
All right, interesting. I wonder what the next destination would be. It'd be cool to have a Boston, but then that means I have to be involved. But
yeah, there might be Connecticut, Mohegan Sun, or Madison Square Garden again. Colin did those with Super Series 15 or something years ago, I think.
Mohegan Sun would be great. Yeah, that's. I was talking to Colin about that because I was only in college. I was only like an hour and a half away when those were going done, but I just wasn't into strongman at the time. I was into wrestling and chasing girls, so it wasn't very much of a wasn't much of the strongman I am today. But yeah, Mohegan's only an hour and a half away from me, so that'll be a great one. But a lot of it, or a lot of this show, of course, we have Joe. So I've talked about it a little bit before we started. You've talked to some of the greats, some of the best open strongman, some of the best weight class strongman, and a lot of the best strong women of all time. So there's a lot of information you've taken in, but so there's a lot of different like takeaways you could probably take away from it. But is there any, like, for instance, let's just start with this, like from the interviews you've had, is there any kind of takeaways that you've brought into your own training that you've learned from these various athletes?
I'm honestly not sure, to be honest. I don't have a definitive answer for that, because maybe yes, but there's been so many chit chats with all of them. It would be hard to say. Like, there's nothing to be honest, there's actually nothing that sticks in my mind that said, oh, they've said this, and then I've gone away and done it. Really, the only thing I can think of, I've not actually done it myself, is just, I remember Tom Stoltman telling me he just tackies his stomach when he goes out to do stones. But then he told me last weekend in Vegas that he started wearing a t-shirt for stones and it feels even better. So you never know. So a lot of my training principles have come from Shane, to be honest.
All right. Interesting. Well, Shane does coach a lot of I think he had 5 or 6 guys at Worlds. So he does coach probably the most athletes coming to Worlds.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. You said Tom's going to start wearing shirts now and during stones. Yeah, that's an interesting tidbit.
Luke gave him Luke was like, try this, and he was like, oh, it's loads better.
All right. I've always said
I wish I had an answer for that, to be honest, because it would be interesting. But this is something I've thought about myself over the years. Like, what if I was thinking, say if I was to make an Instagram post, like the 5 things I've learned from interviewing the strongest people on the planet. I've thought about that kind of concept of post for ages. And I was like, I don't even know what I'd say.
Interesting. Now, does, like, for instance, are you ever taken away by someone's like kind of confidence, or just even like their belief in themselves? Like you can kind of hear in the interview that you can kind of predict how they're going to do in the contest. Like if they're pretty very confident on the interview, then they'll come across and do really well in the competition. If you think they're shy or hesitant in the interview, they might not do so good. But have you ever got any early indicators just through the conversation that judges their performances later on?
Yes, this is an interesting one, actually. This goes back to what I was telling you about with Mitch saying about there's versions of each people. To answer your question specifically, Luke Richardson, I first filmed with Luke in his first week of strongman training. So he was already a world champion powerlifter, junior. And then he started doing strongman. And then within that first week of him doing his first strongman session, I went over to Yorkshire to film him at the shed, and I interviewed him. And I already knew that he was so strong. He must have been like 22 or something at the time, maybe even 21, I'm not sure. But if you've got a 400 kilo raw squat, a 400 kilo deadlift, this is all IPF, Natty Juniors, 200 kilo bench, like, you know that the guy's strong. And he just had so much confidence. He was like, I will be world's strongest man one day, and I'll do everything to get there. And you could feel like the confidence and everything a part of that. But sometimes when I'm doing interviews before the show, so many guys seem to overestimate their abilities. And this is something that Mitch never does. Whenever Mitch says, even his not just his own abilities, but other athletes' abilities, he'll say, "I've had, especially in particular the video I made for the Albert Hall Strongman Classic last year. He was saying, I'll win this event, I'll get this many reps on that event, I'll get sub 10 seconds on the yoke. And by the fourth event of the show on my video, all his predictions were correct about who was going to place where. Whereas a lot of the other athletes always say, yeah, I'll get 8 reps on the deadlift, I'll get 10 reps on the dumbbell, I'm going to log 210. And then they're just never very close to their own estimations. So I'm not sure if they're too confident or they're just playing it up for the camera sometimes.
Interesting, but that's a pretty good take. So discussing all these people, so like on camera, who's been like the most engaging, or even just that's a good word. Who's been the most engaging on camera that you enjoyed interviewing?
I don't want this to be the Mitch Sheeper podcast, but he is very engaging on camera and he can just talk. I love interviewing Novikov. I think he's brilliant. We're quite good friends now. And his English isn't amazing, but he's kind of funny to interview.
Well, I think it's come a long way since been doing interviews since like 2019. So it's especially learning a little more from him. Who's been the funniest on camera?
For me personally, I do enjoy Novikov. Funniest. Evan Singleton's good on camera as well, actually. He brings a lot of personality. Luke was making me laugh pre-Birmingham the other week because he was like, "Oh, I think I've always been a bit of a hard bastard," and I started laughing to myself. He's like, "What? Can I not say that?" But yeah,
who's the wisest?
Who's the wisest?
Yes. Who is there any elders, any wisemans? You can even do first one that comes about be like a Kaz. Kaz is always giving out advice and metaphors for life and strongman.
Yeah, to be honest, a lot of my questions aren't. It like depends what I'm talking about. Usually, it's very like specific to the show. Again, I think just because he's so cerebral, Mitch is very wise in his advice and stuff. Gav Bilton gave me some life advice a couple of years ago about they said you don't lose, you just learn. We don't make mistakes. No, yeah, we don't fail. No, we don't lose. No, is it? Yeah, we don't lose, we just learn, basically. So we don't make mistakes, we just have lessons.
Interesting. I said something before. I say you only lose. I said you only lose if you quit.
Yeah.
There you go.
You only take a loss when you sell. That's more of a trading term. But
there we go for all the investors out there. Any mean or rude interviewers or interviewees you had?
I wouldn't say so, to be honest. No one's particularly mean or rude to me. Even any of the ones you might think were divas, we get on pretty well. I don't want to name drop anyone and put anyone in the stink, to be honest. So it's a bit of a loaded question, this. But athletes that I've heard have a bit of an attitude, ego around them, I've still had a pleasant experience interviewing them. So I'll leave that one there.
All right. Interesting. So who's some of the favorites besides me when you go out and interview individuals? It could either be like some of the weight class over the years, but you've probably had a few dozen, even more.
Apart from you, Tommy Lavelle, he was a good guy. Corey Brennan's a good one to interview for the ladies. Who's my favorite to interview? I like talking to Luke. Luke's actually very wise. I'm going to go back to that one.
Luke Richardson or Luke Stoltman?
Richardson. Nothing on Luke Stoltman. But yeah, Luke's had such a journey over the last few years that he has got a lot of wisdom behind his young exterior.
Well, I'm excited to see him at Worlds next year. And hopefully Europe's. That'll be cool if you get maybe the last 4 champs all in one room.
And he's got World Tour finals coming up in 2 weeks.
Oh, that's right.
The 19th. Cool. Yeah, 2 weeks tomorrow.
How is the Glasgow show? I heard
Very
it's like
good.
the biggest arena out of all of them. Is that right?
I'm pretty sure it's one of the biggest in Europe. Maybe the biggest. I'm not, but maybe not the biggest. But at max capacity, I believe it holds 17,000.
Okay.
We don't have it at max capacity because the backstage bit corners some of the seats off, etc. But it's a cool arena. It's very modern, and yeah, we get a good crowd in there. The Scotland fans bring it, especially when you get the Stoltmans there bringing the heat too.
I'm bummed I can't be there, but hopefully one day. That's of course I always wanted to compete in Scotland. But talking about interviews, so OSG is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You of course interview all weight classes and everything. There's a lot of individuals that are first timers when they head into that interview stage, or at least get I would say dozen or so questions from you. So the people that do end up interviewing, do you have any advice how they prepare and come being their best come game day or the day before game day?
You want about advice for them for the interview itself?
Yes, like how can they best be? It's like how can they bring their best selves into the actual interview?
Well, for anyone that I do end up interviewing, before we start, if it's the first time being interviewed, I do like to explain how it works, give them some advice, and tell them the kind of things I'm expecting. I'd like to think I'm quite good at directing because I know what I want to get, so it's easy to direct somebody to give me the good answer. Main things are put my question back into the start of your answer, because I always cut my voice out of things and people like to just answer the question without any context. Like, this is a conversation, so you can ask me a question and I'll go into my answer. But if it was more of an interview, like you've been through it yourself, you need to give context to what you're talking about at the start and then carry on with the answer. What else? That's the main one, to be honest. One thing that's really annoying for me when I do interview people is they tail off at the end of the sentence. Like, they're going to carry on talking, but they stopped and then they just sit there and stare at me. And I'm like, and then they look at me like, and we kind of just in this weird middle ground. So end the sentence on a hard full stop or period.
Maybe I digress.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that.
It's difficult for me to edit it, because if I'm putting that together and you kind of just tail off towards the end, I cut the clip, but it sounds to anyone watching it sounds like I've cut them off mid sentence. So it's hard to try and piece that together a lot of the time.
That's probably like a lot of my interviews.
Yeah, you do that.
But yeah, is there anything that you suggest, like even if they were doing like a podcast, like how they can be calm or just be able to bring their best selves? Anything that you've done or helped? Like, do you ever help them with breathing exercises, or do you ever just, or what's the best? I guess what I'm getting at is, like, in terms of like having a calm state, what's the best way to get them in a calm state rather than anxious for the interviews? Because sometimes, like, especially like myself, I've been in those situations. There's one time where I went on Big Law's podcast and I was very excited. This is probably right after Worlds in 2021, and I wasn't too happy with my podcast performance because all I did was ramble, and at points he wasn't even answering his questions. Halfway through, I'm like Laws, if I ramble and get off topic, just cut me off. But I listened back myself. I wasn't too happy with my thing, so of course I went back and tried to fix and be more precise with my answers and not try to ramble. But how can we, again, I guess, I know you mentioned, of course, kind of preparing them prior, but any way to get them calm or just get them ready? Do you think they should practice prior to, if they're going to be in front of the camera, practice before they get on to themselves in terms of like their
I do want to
accomplishment?
say this. I mean, if you're going to practice, there's only a handful of people I can interview at OSG. So if you're going to practice, don't do it expecting to be interviewed and then say, Joe, can you interview me, please? I've done all this practice and up until OSG. Because that would be kind of awkward if I didn't end up interviewing them. I've never gone through a breathing exercise before, to be honest. This is one I got the other day, actually. Someone was interviewing me and I was getting my words muddled up or whatever. And he said, this is not something I thought of. This is another guy that films at Giant said to me. He said, just relax, put a smile on your face, and then go for your answer. So I thought I might steal that one, to be fair, because you put a smile on your face, you kind of fake your happiness, and then you relax a little bit because maybe you've calmed down. In general, for chilling out, though, you want to exhale longer than you inhale for, and that brings you more parasympathetic.
Interesting. That's a good one. But I like the smiling cue. That'd probably be good for some of the Eastern European interviews, maybe going forward.
Yeah.
And I'm just teasing. But those are all pretty good tidbits. Of course, maybe I should use them before we even started talking. But usually I have some rapport with a lot of my guests.
Because I've just finished deadlifting, to be honest, I'm still a little bit sympathetic, and all this talking's making my mouth go all dry.
Do you need some water?
No, I mean it's just all the talking dries it up. I've got my water, but the longer I go through my session, the more I feel thirsty. But I'm not actually thirsty. I've just been mouth breathing for the last hour or so.
So what are you training for? Or are you getting
in particular? Just obviously no, nothing in particular. I'm not making weight again until next year, so I'm just trying to get stronger. My deadlift needs to work. A lot of work still. Overhead is on the way up, which is nice, but I'm just training to be. I've been training for the last 12 years. I'm not going to stop anytime soon. So just turn up every week, don't you?
Oh, excellent. But that'll be exciting. Of course, I know you were close to qualifying for OSG. That might have been tough, working and competing at the same time, but that'll probably that might probably happen sooner or later. In the
that's still a couple of years off, to be honest. I know that the level of that, I wouldn't want to go to OSG, and because obviously I get paid to go there now, to pay for myself to go and come like 20th or like towards like just to go there and do 4 events, because there's a final and you have to make top 10. Like if I didn't think I could make top 10, I wouldn't really want to compete, because it's just like, what's the point in that when I can just go and work?
Yeah,
I have more of a contribution as an employee.
Sure, a lot of impact. But talking about, of course, your impact. So you've, of course, you had a lot of success putting out content, a lot of footage, either short form, long form. Tell us your secrets. What's the best way for individuals to go viral? I know you made a video talking about getting over 400 million views across a lot of different platforms. But what are some keys that you would consider? I know there's one video that you put on Instagram. You put like 10 different ones. But what do you think?
That was in my caption. Yeah. So number one, you need a hook. The hook is the first part of the video that hooks your audience in. I said in the video you're talking about, you have to grab them by the scruff of the neck, because if you're scrolling through Instagram and there's a thing called the millennial pause, which me and my friend find quite funny. There's one guy that always pauses. It's when you get your phone out to do a video, and then you start talking after a couple of seconds. That's the millennial pause. So don't do that, because you've already lost someone's, like, half your audience's interest, because like, is anything happening? Is it loading? Scroll. You can hook people visually. So I think I put some visual hooks into that video. Go to my Instagram, Joe Scoey on Instagram. Obviously Instagram.
But is that like when, like, for instance, like like, for instance, I think one of the hooks you used was like a little person or a dwarf throwing a javelin, and then it cuts into like a toothpick and thrown at someone. Is that
stuff like that? Yeah. Or so, like there's people like someone. There's a javelin. One of them was a guy that not javelin does long jump, but his pole gets stuck and it throws him backwards, and people cut that with themselves, like sliding into the frame, like sliding across the floor into frame.
Yes.
Anything when someone grabs your attention, like visually, you're like, oh, I'm going to see how this plays out, because a good hook will spike your intrigue and your curiosity to make you think, I'm going to stick around to see what's going to happen here. And then you can bring your own content into that. Something I like to do for all the gym bros, everyone watching this, I've got another video on this. I've not posted it yet. You like my deadlift you had in my intro. I did this on my 100 kilo dumbbell last year. I posted it, and then I thought, no, because you have to watch me like clean the dumbbell, get it to my shoulder. So, you like to put the celebration at the start of the video. That hooks somebody in, and then they'll watch the whole lift to like get to that point of you celebrating. I used to do it with Matt McKeegan a lot, because he's notorious for passing out on a deadlift. So I'd put him falling out at the start.
Faking a pass out. on his deadlift. I think when
I
it's
don't know.
6 or 7 times, I think it's for the show. We hopefully
I've seen
Mickey
some good ones, to be
joins
fair.
in. He listens.
Yeah, if he's there. Have we got any chats? Are we on? I'm on.
No comments yet, but guys, Joey's here. He's here to help.
No one cares about me. I'm too lowbrow. So yeah, you need a good hook.
We're gonna listen. I'll tell you that.
You need a good hook.
We get
and
the thumbs up
then
from.
to get the
To
go viral, you need rewatchability. If you can have a video that people watch again, and then watch one more time, you'll probably go viral. If you've got a 1 minute video and someone watches 30 seconds of it, 50% retention, you aren't going viral. If you've got a 30-second video, people have to watch 5 times. What's that? 2.5 minutes of retention. You will go viral.
Interesting. So 5 times. I always thought, like, for instance, some of the videos I've had, if they had like over 100,000 views, if there's 30 seconds, at least watch it twice. I thought that's a good one, but I didn't know 5 times was the.
No. Don't get caught.
Oh,
I'm just giving you examples. If you have a 30-second video, somebody watches that 5 times, that's a lot of retention. Whereas if you have, so that's 2.5 minutes of retention. But if you have a 2.5 minute video and somebody watches half of it, then it's, or a 5 minute video and someone watches 2.5 minutes of it, then that's less view duration than someone watching the same video 5 times. I do think for short form, the sweet spot for me has always been around 40 seconds. Anything over that, you do get people tailing off, unless it's very rewatchable.
Interesting. But I like your tidbit especially because, of course, I think it's cool. Of course, the different hooks you were talking about before, but a lot of it's like different content, right? And you see those across all different levels of social media. But I like how you potentially using your own hook. So like a big celebration and then playing it. Of course, I see that a lot in the, of course, official Strongman and Giants, but I never really consider doing that. Usually I try I usually just post as my regular training, but I think that could be an interesting piece. I wouldn't take that much effort. You just copying maybe the second half or just 5 seconds and putting it in the front and then doing the actual whole video. So
yeah, it also depends on platform. Your hook is roughly different lengths. On Instagram or a short form video, your hook is around 3 seconds. You've got 3 seconds to get someone to watch the rest of your video. For YouTube, you should know this because you're a bit of a YouTuber. If you go to analytics, YouTube will tell you the first 30 seconds of retention. It will say, you had 50% people watch the first 30 seconds of your video. This is above average, etc. And then it gives you the rest of the video. But still on YouTube, to get people in the first 5 seconds to watch the first 30 seconds, and then if you get them for 30 seconds, usually they'll stick around for the rest of your video, there or thereabouts, if it's any good.
Sure.
But if you look at the retention graph, you want obviously it drops like a nosebleed straight away, and then it levels off. The sooner you can get your video to level off retention wise, the more views you'll get.
I've noticed that's one reason why I do the intros, just kind of paints a little picture. Sometimes it gets a little exciting. But I always try to shoot for, even on a podcast, just on average, I think if I can retain up to more than 30% throughout the whole video, it's a pretty good podcast.
Yeah. You definitely want over 30%, but yeah, anything less than 30%, you're like, oh, am I getting much retention here?
But sometimes, if it gets a lot of views, sometimes if it gets more views, the retention goes down. But sometimes I've had high retention with less views, so it's pretty interesting. But I have one guy that you need to interview. You got to interview Josh Spurgeon when you're out.
Josh Spurgeon, the hook is a great idea. Going to start doing that. Can you tell me more about Josh? I don't know him.
Josh, he's he just won the Shaw Classic Open, so he'll be at the Strongest Man on Earth. Last year he beat me in the OSG final. He has like a 900-pound deadlift. He came in third at the Arnold Amateur, so he's probably going to be one of the guys to look out for a podium at OSG in the Open. So
is he in OSG this year? Where did he place at OSG?
Last year he was 6th, I believe, maybe behind Jeffers. So
Jim Jeffers.
So I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah, he's because Obringer I was 10th. Obringer was 9th. Gregors was 8th. Joey Lavallee was 7th, and then and he was 6th.
There's my issue with official Strongman games open weight says the best guys are never there for very long, are they?
What do you mean?
So like Pablo Cordiaca, I had no idea who he was. He comes in, wins it, goes straight to Europe's strongest man. So there's never like Elite Richardson. I know who he was beforehand. Matt Ragg. I knew about Matt Ragg for a year or two actually before he went to OSG, just because Shane coaches him, and he was like, "Oh, he's not getting invited to Worlds. He's 5 times New Zealand's strongest man. He's world's strongest man final worthy, which obviously is proven he is 2 times in a row now." And I said to Shane, just make him do OSG podium, and he's there, and which is what happened. But I'm always trying to on the lookout for who are my top dogs at OSG, because the guys that are the best aren't there for very long. Whereas the weight classes, they're there every single year, and you see them kind of rise through the rank, but there's nowhere for them to go afterwards. Whereas OSG is this. Obviously, people have to work to get there, but it's kind of the start of the ladder in the world's strongest man career.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So I feel like most open guys, if they're probably do 2 or 3 years before getting into other avenues before they get discovered. Like my buddy Brian Kitchen, he won nationals, and then he had a pretty good run at OSG. He took 14th, and then competed at some other shows, but then also got noticed, and now he's on the SEL circuit. So he did one SEL. He's doing 2 more SEL shows later this year. So I think eventually, you do well at OSG, you do get recognized. But just a quick thing. Josh says Canby is correct on all that. That's right, because I'm never wrong.
He's all about facts, Canby.
Yes, I love my
Awesome.
facts. So
are you doing OSG this year or no?
Who, me?
Yeah. Are you that's too lowbrow for you now, isn't it?
Not lowbrow, but just I'm coming back just from my bicep, so I think it wouldn't be wise to jump in. So it'd be right at the 6-month mark. So they say 6 months after the bicep surgery. So I did mine on May 26th. So it would be.
Would you have otherwise?
I would probably do if Danner was like, Camby, you need to go compete. If you said OSG, I'll probably do OSG Europe first, just because I think there'll be a different experience. I've done the USA Lens OSG 4 times, and I did one in Belfast in 2016 when it was just 105 by itself. So technically, I've done many OSGs in the US. So I probably would just change it up. But I hope to.
I think I prefer Europe's.
The Europe OSG?
Yeah, I mean, I like Worlds because it's fun to get to travel to do it. But the way OSG Europe's is laid out, there's kind of 10 athletes in each class. So it's kind of like the final, but all weekend. This year there was only 5 events. Last year there was 6. I don't mind the 6 event, but it's just it's a 6-hour day basically. And OSG sometimes gets to be like a 12-hour day. And there's just so many athletes there. I would love to see a cap on so there's 25 athletes in every single category, because then it's predictable how long each category will last, where sometimes it's 20 and then sometimes the open men of 50, and you just don't know, you're just there for ages. I am looking forward to the new format OSG though this year, where they're going to pair weight classes together. So the athletes the lightweights, middleweights, and heavyweights will all be competing in their 2 events, and then they're done for the day. Be better for me filming it, and it should be better for the athletes. So I'm excited for that.
Absolutely, because staying in that mode of competing, just being competition mode for 10 hours is very grueling. Especially some first-time athletes don't really know what to expect. But since that was my 4th Lynn OSG, I had kind of an idea what to expect in between events, and you can kind of use that advantage if you play it right. I remember Nate Goldtree would just leave and go take a nap in between events, and he would be the last one warming up. So he was literally trying to be there the least amount of possible time. But I did want to just, even though it's a Joey podcast, I'll just mention I'm hoping to get invited back to Europe's. If that doesn't happen, maybe I'll be back at OSG Europe.
Or Italy's again.
My plan was OSG Europe this year if I didn't get it before I even got considered for the Giants Live Europe Strongest Man.
Because you were on the list.
Huh? Yes.
You were on the list of invites. Obviously, you weren't. I was like, he's never going to do Europe. What's the point? He's already done Giants Live.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But I do kind of agree. You do have to keep kind of proving yourself. And if I do slip up, then I'll be back in the OSG circuit. That's the way it goes, and that's the way it should be. So we kind of strayed away from our topic. So we talked about the hooks. We talked about how to retain the videos. But do you suggest, in terms of like Strongman, a lot of them are ramping up their YouTube pages. Like Rag just made a YouTube page. James Jeffers is a great one. He does a great job. His wife does a lot of the producing, but he just got monetized. But like, what do you think are some keys or some important items for people that want to have a deeper reach into the strongman community when it comes to their social media? Is it important for them to get onto different platforms? Is it important for them to getting in front of a camera and speak? But what do you think is important in order to engage their audience or engage the community?
I mean, the first step is just to start and do it. Like you mentioned, platforms usually dictate, are you making long form content or short form content? Personally, I feel content where it's very much like a day in the life or like a 40-minute, like, okay, now I'm going here and to wash my dog, and then I'm going here to wash my car, then I'm going shopping, then I'm going to the gym, bore the life out of me. But like some girls kind of love that content, maybe boys do as well, but like I think of like the girly influencers that like do the makeups and stuff like that. They get such a repeat audience of people tuning in every day because then you become part of that person's life. Sup, Tommy? I see him in the comments.
Tommy, what's up, bro? What's up? Hey,
but then just
really quick, Joe, not to cut you off, but hey, Tommy, where's my shirt? Huh?
Oh, I love that.
I'm waiting for my shirts to come out. All right, I'm waiting, Tommy. All right, go back.
Yeah. Where was I? I'm getting distracted by Darren giving me crap in the group chat.
Is he listening to the show?
No, he's on about something else.
Oh, he's missing out.
But you make content people want to watch. Make content that either is entertaining or is like valuable or education that you can learn from. Give a reason people to watch and make a reason for people to watch all the way through.
Interesting. I always thought authenticity always was important. Of course, you don't want to stray away from your own values to make a video just to get popular, just to get likes. Of course, there's the fine line of like the stretch of like what's clickbait and what do you consider that in your own line. Do you have any suggestions there in terms of like either staying true to your values or go to the clickbait route?
The thing with clickbait is it's only clickbait if you don't pay off the expectation.
Okay.
If you say I'm going to do this crazy thing and then, or I'm going to give you all this advice and it's just advice people's heard before, or it's actually not that crazy, people are like, oh, whatever, what's the point? But if you can give a big hook, like get loads of intrigue and curiosity, and then you do pay it off, then it's not clickbait anymore because you paid off the hook. But if you don't pay off the hook, then it becomes clickbait because you've lured somebody into a trap and not given them the cheese.
Interesting. I have a good example of that. I've said it a few times in previous episodes. Paul Dwyer made a video. Why is Mitch Hooper as good as he is? Mm-hmm. And the whole time he goes through all of his accomplishments, 10 minutes. And then when he comes to talking about it, all he said was Mitch recovers faster than everybody. He walks a lot. The end.
I think we've spoken about that.
Yeah, so I wasn't too big a fan, but Tommy says the shirts are on their way. Thank you, Tommy. I was just teasing. We know they're on the way, but right now there's a crisis in terms of everybody being on strike that unloads shipping containers in the ports. So hopefully they're not sitting somewhere in the ports. And Tommy says authenticity, baby. Yes, no one's more authentic and to themselves.
There's also the Odd Objects UK store now.
Sure is.
Yeah, so any of my UK boys and girls want to get some Odd Objects, head over there.
It's for all the cool kids. That's what I tell people. How important is I know you've harped on this. I think I know the answer, but how important is video and audio quality when it comes to being effective? Like, I know, like for instance, if I hear too raspy or too much static on audio, I'll turn it off. I won't listen to it. But what are your thoughts? You probably say that. I'm thinking you say the same thing.
Yeah. As much as I am about video, audio is king. If we were, I can't hear my audio. Hopefully with my mic, it's pretty good. This is why I went for the mic today instead of laptop audio, because I'm not a big fan of laptop audio. Anything where you've not used a real mic is like, for me, it's like, no, I don't really want to listen to this. But there's also these like £20 microphones people buy off Amazon now, which I think you're actually better off without that because they're even worse. But audio first, and then video and kind of lighting in that audio.
Interesting.
Audio like a broken phone camera. I fixed that jack with blue tack. So put your sock in your mouth.
Joe Jack. You know what's interesting?
Hold on, sorry, to answer that question again more. The content of your actual video still, I think, is more important than the quality. As long as you've got good audio, deliver good content, people will like get by with like medium quality on videos, that quality videos, including the audio. I mean, the whole production of it. But increasing the production doesn't always necessarily increase the views or anything like that. But it to an extent, you know, it's a balancing act.
Like, so for instance, right now I'm using a web camera. You think I should upgrade to like a digital camera, maybe like a Nikon or something, to record my podcast?
Not necessarily. You've got the crazy blurred background effect going on.
Yes,
but you've got good audio.
So studio coming soon.
Like I'm using laptop camera at the minute. It's not amazing, but it does the job. Maybe it could use with a bit of clean. Actually, looks a bit greasy.
I started clipping videos. So I found an app that uses AI to clip the podcast. So they'll bring out like what they think is the best clips among the videos. So I posted some of Lucas. I posted some of John Hack. I'm gonna do Austin. So I'm pretty much gonna go backwards in terms of some of the podcasts I've had. I've only just done a few, but I've noticed when I clip it, of course, it zooms in on my face, and the quality gets even worse. So, and then when you post it again on social media, then it's kind of blurred because it's kind of zoomed in, and I like to make it vertical, so it's nice and fits in. But do you think
my tip for that is, if you have the right software for it, if something gets really kind of quality downgraded when you make it vertical, I don't know if you get a recording file from this podcast.
Yes,
software you use. Okay, because I know there's an app called Riverside that does as well. But I like to go kind of widescreen in smaller, and then I have another layer below that where it's fully scaled up, and you kind of blur it a bit, so you can kind of see what's going on, but it's blurred, and then you have a smaller thing in the middle. Something World's Strongest Man have started doing on their socials recently is the same clip, widescreen, top and bottom, so you just see it kind of twice.
Interesting. So they have been doubling up. Interesting. So those are all pretty good tidbits. But as long as
the audio is okay, then and you can go captions on the screen, because most people listen to Instagram and with the sound off. So as long as you can read what's going on.
All right, interesting. My buddy Big Billiam says viewers are spoiled now with high quality video and audio. That is very correct.
Yeah,
my buddy Christopher Althera, audio is definitely king, assuming most people just listen rather than watch. And then
Joseph, I mean, that's how radio works. Imagine radio with bad quality microphones, they just wouldn't exist, would it?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm curious. You think I need like a safeguard on this, or you think just having a good mic, I could do a little like ASMR on this?
I mean, that sounds a lot better the closer you get it to your mouth, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how mics like that work on proximity. The guard I think you're talking about, them little like circle, like kind of mesh things.
Yes.
They're usually just to catch like the
where those hearts come from?
Okay, you should do one of these, I think.
Is that a Twitch thing?
You can get it on Google Meets as well. I'm not sure. You can probably do it on other platforms.
I know, but I've never seen that, so this is all pretty new to me.
The guards they're like pop catchers. So for like a push, and it catches that noise and gets it off the microphone.
No.
So you don't necessarily need one, but that's why like singers have one, because they kind of enunciate a lot into microphones.
Interesting. Well, I'm gonna upgrade my set. I'm working on the studio, so I think the first thing I'm working on is I'm gonna put it in the back room here. Is make sure I have good Wi-Fi, because it's far away from the router, and it's only like one bar. So that's one of the things why I haven't done it. But let's just tune into Tommy right now. I always get confused with what it means to even make content wise, because so much is already out there. I usually am just trying to make fun of something or someone else. Ha ha ha.
Look at that lovely picture of Tommy then, his profile picture. Put that back up.
I know you did. You wanted the picture up?
Yeah, look at that picture.
It's a great picture.
A little bit dark on the back, actually. It should be. I think it shows the blue light on there. It looks a little dark, but
you're a perfectionist. You're always trying to make everything better.
Hair light. I mean, Tommy's got a very unique point of view. Nature Walk wasn't out there. Look, he made that.
It's very, very cool. If you guys haven't checked it out, we discuss it on the podcast, but also it's out 45 minutes of grueling strongman events in the woods where there's no judges, no spectators, no rules, just athletes. So on the strongman end, so kind of moving on, a lot of the strongman have, sorry, wrong area. So now you have in the US, you have about 5 OSG regionals. You have OSG Europe, you have the big OSG, you have Giants Live kind of always getting more popular. On top of just the OSG Giants Live, you have the four major contests like Worlds, Strongest Man on Earth, the Arnold, the Rogue Invitational. Where do you see strong, like just from your point of view, where do you see strongman in the next 4 or 5 years? Do you think it's going to continue on this trend? Do you think we'll see potentially more competitions or new federations to come out? But what does Joey?
Potentially more federations, more I don't know about more federations. There's, you never know. Some like what was it? WUS, they came out of nowhere and didn't last very long, did they? But so they could always be new federations. How long they stick around for is to be seen when they come. But more competitions, I'd say probably for sure. A lot of the other a lot of the non-Giants Live is kind of like they just do one show per year, don't they? I mean, I suppose there was the Arnold UK this year, but compared to the Ohio one, it was a bit of a joke. You got Rogue, Strongest Man on Earth. I don't know if they're going to do another Strongest Man on Earth twice in a year, but in general for strongman, the strength in depth is getting so big. There's more people coming to OSG every year. The weight classes are getting bigger every year. They're getting more competitions too. So yeah, I think the more people that come into the sport, the more strength in depth there are, and there's more like a deeper lineup. When I think obviously in terms of Giants Live, because I'm so used to it, but there's so many good strongmen out there you can put on many shows a year and not have the same lineup all the time. Basically, I like to think about 2021 World Deadlift Champs. 7 guys pulled 1,000, and that basically, I'm not sure the exact numbers, but roughly that doubled the amount of 1,000 pound pullers on the earth just in one night. And then last weekend in Vegas, 4 guys pulled 470, and then the 1,000 pound pullers almost become, harsh to say, almost irrelevant because so many guys pulled 470. Like when 4 guys pulled 7 guys pulled 1,000, it's like that's crazy. But then 4 guys pulled 470. Austin had it just this much. Hicksy should have got it, didn't. Like everyone's getting so much stronger. There needs to be the amount of competitions to match how many strong guys there are.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. But I always say this is probably the best time to be a strongman right now. Just the most opportunities, especially among all the different weight classes. There's plenty of federations to join and be involved, and more federations kind of collabing with each other. So
of course, yeah.
it's definitely a good time.
And that'll be true every year going forward. Every year will be the best year to be a strongman because it'll just get better and bigger and more money and more eyes.
Let's get it. I always say that would explode strongman, would make it better instantly.
What?
Sports betting. If you could start, like, think about how excited people would be in the Vegas casino. They're at the race book and they're able to bet on the World Deadlift Champs. They're like, I have a lot of people would have lost a lot of money on Graham Hicks, but in general, they probably wouldn't bet like Trey Mitchell would have pulled 470. So there'd be so many kind of all these different, I would say different bets that they put out. But for the most part,
I agree with that completely. By the way, I think this all the time at Giants. I'd love to be able to bet on how many reps someone's going to get.
But that people say it would be too easy too easy for, like, for instance, like potentially athletes to fix numbers into items. But if you just did like the total, like placing or total wins, you could start pretty easy. You could just start on the contest results and then go to the event results, or just who's going to win the kind of world's strongest man groups. But that would bring in such an audience, kind of a degenerate audience to the sport that would just watch it just because, again, they want to. Yeah, they have money on the line. I would say, I would say horses going around in a circle, that's pretty exciting, but of course it can get kind of boring, but people more watch it because they have money on the line. So it's pretty important.
Big Joe comments there. I feel like it could be a problem with fixing, and that's my other counterpart. It's not big enough where, like, probably a strongman could probably earn more money from fixing a result and like, oh, everyone's going to bet 5 reps. So I just do 5 reps when you could have done 6 or 4 or something. So that's a tricky one.
It is. So maybe we'll get ironed out. Maybe hopefully we'll get the sports book, but again, that'll bring in a lot of investment going forward. But we got about 10 more minutes, Joe, if that works for you.
Yep.
So of course we've been pretty positive so far on the show. But in general, in the sport of strongman or in gym culture in general, is there anything that grinds your gears?
You said this to me before we started, and I thought of a good one then. It was something that I think it was OSG Europe. So I was telling the photographer Zoe, I was like, this thing always grinds my gears, and it just kind of gives me the ick, as people say now, when the clock's running down on the event and people are like desperately screaming at the refs, like, what's the time? How much time have I got left? And they're like tapping their wrists. And I'm just like, oh, it just cringes me out. That probably grinds my gear more than anything else in the entire sport, to be honest. How much time have I got? Just do another rep.
You don't think it's important? Just like
it might be, but just come on. It just cringes me out. It's irrelevant how important it is. Like, I'll do it myself, if the time's there. But I had a competition once where I had a stopwatch on my wrist. I started it at the time of the event goes. So I was being very professional with my reps on a log to axle and back and forth. And I was like, okay, a couple of seconds, right, go for another one.
I've definitely been guilty of asking for time.
I think everyone does it, but you can also ask the ref, can you just shout out like every 10 seconds how long I've got left or something?
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's just the desperation in the voice.
I see that. You ever see the old clip of Mariusz Pudzianowski asking for time, and it looked like he didn't get an answer, and he was all frantic, and then just went back and just pulled what he needed to pull. Or I think it was press. I forget which one it was.
Well, how much time are you wasting by asking for the time when you could have just gone in for the rep?
That's
obviously, I suppose there is strategy. Like, if there's 15 seconds left and you got, right, it takes me 5 seconds to do a rep. I got 10 more seconds of rest and then go for it. Or you've got 5 seconds, right, go for it now. It's here and there, but I'm just saying on general, it gives me I don't like it.
So, guys, if you're at OSG, don't ask for time because Joey is going to get the ick. My World's Strongest Wiener wants to know when her footage is going to come out from when you came over in 2021. We went to the dog park when there was a wiener meetup, and we did like the Lion King where I held her on top of a rock, and we worked out at the gym. So she wants to know where her footage is.
I went back to that, not very recently, but a little while ago. Recently, obviously that was 3 years ago now. I have been back to that. My issue was when I filmed that, I wasn't as good at storytelling as I am now, and it was difficult for me to put a full piece together. Did I not finish that?
When it needs to come out.
Maybe never then, to be honest.
What do you mean? Why?
Just because if it's not finished for me and it's so many years old, then it's difficult for me to put it out there.
Well, Maya's still around, so she's
Maya.
Tommy likes sports betting. Thank you, Tommy. He agrees on the sports betting. So we're wrapping up the show. So any questions you want to ask Joe now? So put them in the comments. All right. Let's just start with Joseph Tower. Joe and Camby, how do you think you could solve the problem of athletes not finishing the last event, like at the deadlift champs? Only 6 guys did the stones. I think that's a tough one. Just because there were 2 injuries. Actually, 2 injuries. Novikov was in really rough shape after the wrecking ball hold, and then you also had Iron BB, who never really likes to do stones in general too. Maybe that's probably expected prior to the show. So what do you think, Joe?
Having 6 athletes finish the show, I've never seen that before. Usually maybe 1 or 2 drop out, but to have 4 of them drop out was definitely very rare. Not really sure what the issue with Tommy is. He told me he had sciatica, which wreaked havoc on him. Evan is in a bad run of form after Albert Hall, pulled out injury. Log Champs pulled out. Did he pull out? No, he didn't pull out, but he just kind of underperformed. And then I think maybe his head's just gone. I'm not really sure exactly. But is it I don't think it's a problem that needs to be fixed. It's just, it was one of them freak scenarios where loads of people were injured. Most people finish all the show.
Yeah, I think at Europe's the one. Of course, when I competed, I think only 2 people dropped out. So there's always going to be some injuries. I think it's tough not to have an injury, especially with 12 guys in the lineup, and especially as heavy as the shows are. But how we can prevent that?
I mean, you can't go lighter on a max deadlift, can you? Really?
No, you cannot.
Wrecking ball hold is quite a posterior chain event, even though it looks like you think it's a grip event, but it's more full body and mental fortitude than it is just pure grip. Like a Hercules hold isn't bad on the body, but the wrecking ball hold is a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, I think
100 kilo dumbbells not so.
But I think that's just the nature of strongman. There's always in a lineup like that. There's always going to be guys that get banged up and don't finish the show. I think that's part of it. If you had all 12 guys kind of surviving the show and not getting hurt, that's a huge win. But maybe I don't know. It probably wouldn't be so much on the people on the show, but maybe just the athletes in general, just coming in healthier or just doing the right things in order to get in the right shape. Tommy Lavelle asks, who is Joe's favorite open weight strongman besides Campy?
You're my favorite 105 kilo strongman. I love Novikov. I think he's brilliant. He's not been as dominant as he used to be, but I still love him nonetheless. And I'll never get bored of watching Tom Stoltman nail one motion a 200 kilo stone run.
Yeah, it's quite the spectacle to see. Christopher Otero asks, what event are you most excited to see at OSG this year?
I'm looking forward to the Trump events because we usually have a lot of zeros on, especially the overhead, but maybe the deadlift as well. So having the weight options for that means that people can go light and get some reps, or go heavy and not to do as many reps. There was a lot of contention about the deadlifts being too light this year. So Lynn's kind of had his hand forced to go for a Trump axle as well.
That's a good idea. I remember when I won my OSG title, I think only 6 guys got the log. So that and all 6 guys made the finals, and then there was 4 guys that were battling to make the finals.
And you did a couple extra reps for the crowd as well, didn't you?
Sure did.
You also did you split the last one just for fun, was it?
I split jerk 2 out of the 6.
Yeah, you were kind of back and forth or something, weren't
you? But that was kind of like my strategy, was to finish each clean and press away with a split jerk, just because I always have one split jerk when I think my push press is kind of finishing done. But in terms for you, Joey, when everything is said and done, what are you looking to achieve in the world of strongman and your professional career?
In the world of strongman, I'd like to be partly responsible for weight class athletes being professional athletes, with enough eyes on the sport. Hopefully we can get somewhere close to that. I've been vocal about trying to get a documentary on Netflix. I'm not anywhere close with it, but I've got the archives. If something can pop up, I'm just still working on my storytelling, and just in general as professional, nothing set in stone. Like, I want to be a Netflix documentary filmmaker. It doesn't have to be Netflix, it could be Prime, but I think Netflix is bigger than Prime, so I'm going to go there. I think I've seen people that have got onto Prime pretty easily, so it doesn't seem like a big goal for me. That I probably feel like I could get onto Prime already.
So Netflix is where it's at.
Yeah.
You talked to Eddie a lot. Do you know how Eddie originally got on Netflix?
Yeah, but apparently for Netflix at the time, it was, at least because Colin told me this a couple of years ago, you have to have you don't have to, but I think in their scenario was have a like a cinema release or a theater release. Like, you have, if it's been in cinema, then you can get it into Netflix. So like if you have a live audience watching it, then you could get it onto Netflix.
So did Eddie have a live audience? Is that how he got in?
I assume he might have done, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget it, because that was back.
It's not on Netflix anymore, though.
Yeah, but this first one came out like 2014. So, and that was huge for the sport at the time. So it's great if
it was big. Yeah, that's the reason why I think I'd like to get something on Netflix, because I saw the impact that had there. But also, Eddie Hall is Eddie Hall, and not many other people are Eddie Hall. I know the Mulligan brothers plus Sister Neve have a Stoltman documentary that should have been finished years ago, to be honest. They follow the Stoltmans through Tom's back-to-back campaign when Luke won Europe's and won the World Tour Finals 2 weeks after that. So, yeah, they captured the Stoltmans through a really crazy period of their success. So I'm excited to see when that finally comes out, what happens with that. So,
but getting us more documentaries, at least having some, because I think Born Stronger is the last one that was on like the mainstream. So we're overdue. But like we were saying kind of earlier in the show, guys, we got, oh shoot, I'm fucking up. All right. I was saying earlier in the show, guys, Canby shirts are coming out soon. So you're gonna be on oddobjects.com. So probably in the next few weeks, at the most. So 2 different shirts. And then also don't forget, I'm also in the coaching scheme. So I got press specific coaching, but also full coaching. So if you guys are interested in some coaching, please hit me up, DM, or also my email on my Instagram. So either one works. But Joey, you got your Instagram. Do you have a YouTube channel?
No, I don't. Well, I do, but it's not. I don't use it for publishing content on it. It's all embarrassing old stuff that I did when I was 12 years old.
All right. Oh,
so don't go and watch it.
I think I'm going to put a link in the description now.
All the most embarrassing stuff's all private anyway now. So.
All right. Yeah, that's good. That's me too. I got some good stuff. You know, I had a video back when, you probably appreciate this. They got viral on Barstool Sports. It was a man on the street video of the Jersey Shore back in 2011, and it got picked up by KFC, who was a big New York commentator. And I got up to like 50,000 views over, because he posted it every year. Right. So I peaked way too early after college. So if I can get back into the 50,000 range view, that would be a great outcome. But Joey, I really appreciate taking the time to speak with me. You've been a great bud, of course, a great member of the community, and big things for Mr. Joey Schofield going forward. But what's one last piece of advice you want to leave the listeners as we end and round out the show?
If you're going to make content, buy a microphone. Otherwise, I'm not watching it.
Great piece of advice. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And until next time.
Thanks for having me, Canby. Thanks for watching, people.
Stay strong. Oh, there's a
bye-bye.